Good day, everyone. Meteorologist Mark Molnar here. How is everybody getting along? Well, we have continuing Tropical Storm Nicole coverage here. It is continuing to head north across northern Florida and eventually into Georgia as we head overnight Thursday night into Friday morning. Where is Nicole and its remnants, its extratropical remnants, going to go? Well, this system is going to continue to the north. And as you can see, watch how it just traverses right up the spine of the Appalachians. And yes, we are going to have some very, very heavy rains up here across parts of the Northeast as we get into Friday and into early Saturday morning. And that will continue to the Northeast. So we'll get into all the details, which areas could see the potential flooding, and this large wind field also associated with Nicole. Let's get into it. All right, so we're starting off with the important point here, Nicole, before we dive into anything else here. Yeah, there is this system, Nicole, still a tropical storm. It will become extratropical. This is 4 a.m. Friday morning, so it's going to be entering the base of the Appalachians here. Now, look what starts to happen to the north here. You see this front over here into parts of the upper Midwest. It's not going to be a full interaction with this front, but we're going to get some moisture, and it's going to allow this system to stream out ahead of it here, kind of like during this direction. Now watch this. This system will ride up the spine of the Appalachians, especially the western side, and you really start to get rain breaking out 7 a.m. for your morning commute. Some of the heaviest rain is going to be up here in Pennsylvania, northern Virginia, parts of eastern Ohio, Kentucky. And look at this as we continue in time here. This is, let's take it out to 4 p.m. here. You're going to have two areas kind of setting up for this heavy rain scenario here. Back into parts of eastern Ohio, eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, and then up here into eastern upstate New York, eastern Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. The good news is, though, there's not many flash flood watches or flood watches. You know why? Because this is very fast moving, and that is the saving grace with this system. Look at this, is 10 p.m. on Friday. It looks like, thankfully for the Susquehanna River Valley and the Hudson River Valley, this axis of heaviest precipitation is going to remain west of a Syracuse, Ithaca, Williamsport line here. The GFS has shifted a little bit further to the west. That is great news. And take a look at this. Yeah, this is 1 a.m. on Saturday morning. You see here in the Northeast, heavy rain, kind of pivoting into places like Binghamton, Ithaca, Syracuse, Watertown, over here towards Olean, New York. But watch how quickly this just moves out of the picture. You're pretty much in a dry slot there in the Hudson Valley. I-81 corridor from Binghamton down to Scranton up to Ogdensburg, Watertown, Syracuse. This is heavy rain, 4 a.m., but watch this. It pulls off to the northeast really quickly, just north of the Capital District, 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m. Yeah, this is the actual front back here. So at this point, all this energy was outspent and pretty much race to the northeast with Nicole, so these two really didn't have a chance to really enhance each other and combine. That's some great news here. Now, what about the rest of the tropics here? I know a lot of my Caribbean viewers are wondering what this is. This has been popping up every so often. Well, this run of the GFS doesn't really do much with it here. You can see kind of shears it apart, so to speak. And the intertropical convergence zone out here does remain pretty active for this time of year, but as you can see, there is a lot of wind shear going on. You can see how these systems try to go west, and then it almost looks like they're heading the opposite direction. That's that upper level wind shear. We got this trough kind of hanging around out here into the central Atlantic, and that's going to continue in time. Let's see if we go out in time. Is there anything on the horizon here? Well, we have to go far out to Thanksgiving week here, the third week of, look at this, November here. This is where we're starting to get into something interesting. It's crazy that we're even talking about this late in November, but look at this. Yeah, we could have a potential, it's a pretty far out, but yeah, we might have another named storm this late in the season. So if you're in the Caribbean islands, Bahamas, Florida, Central America, I don't think your tropical season is just over just yet. Look at that. This is Wednesday, November 23rd. We continue. Look at that. And it kind of gets picked up into the westerlies. But yeah, things do remain pretty active here. All right, so as we get into the HRRR mesoscale model, I love this model. Many of you know that. It's been very good, a very good tool near term and getting out to beyond 12 or 24 hours. So take a look at this. This is Friday at 5 a.m. Take a look at this. This is the leading edge. This is essentially your future radar. That's another reason I like it. There is the center of circulation right over southwestern Georgia. And you look at the expanse of the moisture here, all the way up to Pittsburgh by 5 a.m. here. So it is a tad bit slower than the GFS, just by a hair. But look at that, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Here's the center of circulation. It's not moving much down here. But the expanse of the northerly precipitation, I mean, we're really getting socked in for your morning commute around Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, all the way down to Fredericksburg, Richmond, and extending down the spine of the Appalachians. Look at this in Atlanta as well. Look at this. We'll continue to move this into motion. This is 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. The center starting to take a little bit of a turn. So you can see the mesoscale models here are a little bit on the western envelope. Now, this is the little bit of the concern here on the eastern side. This is where you can get spin-ups of tornadoes and severe weather. And some of these feeder bands that are feeding up on the eastern side of the system, if you are east of this line, heading up into the northeast as well. There we go. So there it is. So if you're east of that line, you do have the chance of some stronger cells that could lay down some strong damaging winds or tornadoes. So that's definitely going to be a problem as we head into this region, the eastern quadrant of this system. So as we continue in motion here, take a look at this. We start to see the rainfall getting up at 11 a.m. Places like Binghamton, New York, Erie. So if we back this up just a few frames, yeah, you're not too bad for your morning commute up into Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Binghamton, Albany. But look how quickly the rain moves in. 12 p.m., 1 p.m. Yeah, you're going to want to have the umbrellas on hand here because you are going to be socked in with some of these heavy gully washers. Now, look what's starting to happen here. You have some of these feeder bands feeding north, and the concern is that some of these could train over the same areas on the east side of the system. Now, you have to look at where this is going to dry. The dry slot's going to set up. You can see this is shutting off moisture just behind this main feeder band. And there is the center of circulation kind of staying pretty well with guidance here at this stage of the game. So actually, as we continue in time here, take a look at this. This is 3 p.m., 4 p.m. So yeah, what we have here is a tropical system going extratropical. You can see how well defined this is. On the northwest side, you're going to see the steady heavy rain. Eastern Ohio, central Ohio. The GFS was a little tad to the east in consolidating this. So I still think eastern Ohio could be a problem as well into western New York, western Pennsylvania for the heaviest rain. Now, you start to see some of these cellular type things set up here across eastern Pennsylvania, Virginia into eastern North Carolina. Watch this as we go into motion here. Yeah. So this is 5 p.m. as you're getting out of work, a lot of you. 6 p.m., 7 p.m. You see how we might have some breaks of sun actually showing up in this region. This could get some of these stronger cells on the east side going in. These areas into eastern Pennsylvania, into the Susquehanna region of New York, we could have some of these thunderstorms put down some pretty heavy rains here in a short period of time. So definitely want to keep an eye on that. But look at this. As we head out in time here, let's just zoom out. You can see the next feeder band coming in here off the coastline. And look at this. So things become pretty cellular on the east side. And there is where you see the heaviest band. This is pretty much agreeing with the GFS at this stage of the game. Dry slot a little bit here to the west, but you got to watch some of these cells on the east side. They can put out a lot of heavy rain. And there it is across parts of southern Ontario, Quebec, and northern parts of New England. You're going to see some of those heavy rains continuing as that heavy shield moves up into these regions. Now, look what starts to happen. This is a Saturday at 12 a.m. This is essentially midnight. This almost looks like we're starting to take on some sort of a line of thunderstorms here. So we have some cellular thunderstorms on the east side of this continuing, kind of breaking for a break here in the I-81 corridor. That's great news. But look how this pivots to the east. This is where things could start to go downhill a bit as the front starts to move in a little bit to the west. We might be seeing some energy re-energize this northwest side into a line of strong thunderstorms. And that essentially what seems to be happening here. You can see this is 3 a.m., 4 a.m. This is a rather sharp line of thunderstorms moving through Syracuse, Ithaca, and down and through Williamsport here. Now look at on the eastern side here. This is where we could see some of these cellular thunderstorms set up. And as I said before, even though at this point this won't be a full tropical system anymore, any one of these cells could put down a isolated tornado or a damaging wind gust. So definitely want to keep an eye on that as we go in time. Now let's take a look here. Future radar. As you're waking up Saturday morning, yeah, it's going to be rather thundery, windy, and yeah, just plain old wet here across the Northeast, Binghamton up to Syracuse. And you see how that kind of starts to pull out to the Northeast. Yeah, we could have some thunderstorms here approaching the Hudson River Valley, parts of the Eastern Catskills and Poconos as well. Capital District of upstate New York. And look how this continues into parts of northern New England. This is by 10 a.m. But look how quick this is moving. You can see the center of circulation with this system. Let's back it up. Look how it moves up through parts of eastern New England. And by this point, you can see the center. It's somewhere in this region right around Boston. So this starts to take on the classic comma head here. And behind it, here is our next system. And look at this. You can kind of make out where the area of low pressure is. There's the front. And this is lake effect forming right behind it. So that is that cold blast of air. All right, so taking a look at precipitation totals here into the whole... Wow, look at that. Yeah, so here is the GFS to start off. And you can see a lot of this has already fallen here across parts of Florida. That's why you see not too much, but look at this. The purples are right around 1 to 2 inches, but look at this. Yeah, GFS is still persistent here into the 2.5 to 4 inch range here in parts of New York, Pennsylvania, Eastern Ohio. So let's zoom in on that area regionally here, and we'll take a look and see what the GFS has in store. So the GFS has started to pivot it was pivoting a little bit to the westward throughout the day, and now it's pivoting just slightly back east again. And I'll show you the mesoscale totals here momentarily. But look at the GFS, what it's doing is the heaviest still across parts of southeastern Ohio, northwestern Pennsylvania, and then getting up here into north central New York and northern New England here. This is the 2.5, 3.5 inches, and there's a bullseye right around eastern Elk County, Pennsylvania, northern Center County. That's pretty interesting. So we'll have to keep an eye on these trends. Let's go over to the other models here. So as we take a look at our HRRR model, very trusty model of mine. Look at this. So this is a bit more... This is interesting. It is further to the west. You can see some of the rainfall totals coming in here in eastern Ohio, topping 4 inches, 4.5 inches. So that's a trend we'll have to keep an eye on. And here into northwestern Pennsylvania, 2.5 to 3 inches, 3.5 in some areas. Now, across the Susquehanna River Valley, this is where we're right around 1.5 inches. And that's kind of what we saw on the GFS, although the GFS had the totals... the 2 to 3 inch totals a little dangerously close to the northern Susquehanna Valley. But I still think, in these areas of the I-81 corridor, still a solid 1 to 2 inches can be expected. And as you take a look at the coastline here, you're generally around an inch or less. So that's some good news for you. I'll go over the wind fields momentarily. There is going to be some gusty winds, but thankfully they're not going to be as bad as we originally thought here. And here we go with the Euro. Always want to take a look at King Euro here. This is very curious because the Euro is actually the farthest east out of all of these. Very, very interesting. So if you're in Binghamton up to Syracuse, down to State College area, this is a solid 2.5, 3 inches of rain. So anywhere in this red shading, 2.5 to 3 inches, even up into northern Vermont here. Now you get over towards, this is interesting, this is kind of the bullseye where it was on the HRRR model. Actually, it was the GFS. Yeah, it was the GFS. Had the highest totals right around Elk County, Center County, Pennsylvania, approaching 4 inches. This is actually pretty curious and interesting. We'll watch these trends. One thing to note, though, no matter where this heaviest band sets up, I think it'll be somewhere in this region here, probably the heaviest. it doesn't matter where it sets up. The great news is we're keeping totals below 5 inches. That is the key right there. So we're not going to see extreme major flooding event, which is very good news. And as you can see going up the coastline here, take a look at the wind. The wind's not going to be as big of a factor inland. It will at times. I-81 eastward. Your gusts are going to be into the 30s throughout the overnight hours of Friday into Saturday. But look at this along the coast. That's where you're going to get into the 50, 55 knots at times. Gusts. These are gusts indicated. And that will move up the coast during the early morning and into the afternoon hours of Saturday. You can see that. So thankfully not a horrible damaging wind event, but still a problem. So here we go. This is the overall pattern. Let's back that up. And high pressure in control here across the Northeast. Now, the interesting thing about this is watch how quickly this erodes. It allows this next trough to break down this area of high pressure, and it allows what's left of Nicole to ride up on the east side of this trough, right behind this ridge here into the Northeast. And that's signifying it's an end of your Indian-type summer, so to speak. And look at this, Sunday. Yeah, we are pushing that system, what's left of Nicole, way up here into the Canadian Maritimes. And essentially, look at this. Yeah, there's the low. High pressure pushing out into the Atlantic, and we start to get a blocking high. Now, how big is this blocking high going to get into the Gulf of Alaska? Now, this is interesting because you don't normally see such a massive ridge here across Western North America and a ridge here in the east at the same time. Now, bear with me here, because that is going to change. We get a brief ridge in the east, but watch. Look at this. Yeah, so essentially what we have going on here, this is Sunday, November 20th. So here is the axis of that trough. There's that mega ridge up here into the Gulf of Alaska. And here is that massive ridge retreating off the U.S. East Coast. This is going to set us up for a massive blast of cold air and wintry type conditions here across the Northeast. This is Tuesday, November 22nd. Now you see there, this ridge, this stubborn western and central Atlantic ridge continues to try to keep a ridge here across parts of the Southeast. And this ridge up here into the Gulf of Alaska is very persistent. Now watch what happens here. This is right around the time of Thanksgiving. Could we have some kind of a snow event up here in the parts of the Northeast? We'll have to see. This is really interesting. And look what's forming right behind it. This is the day after Thanksgiving. You start to have blocking going up here in Greenland. Look what's going on here. It's like pieces of the polar vortex are breaking off. You got these massive systems forming. And look at this. This just continues to strengthen this ridge here into the Gulf of Alaska. This, if you love snow in the east, this is the pattern you want to see. And take a look at this. Eastern Pacific is clear as a bell through the entire November forecast period. You can pretty much say, wow, it looks like it's over here. But what about the Western Pacific? Let's go over here. Let's back this up because there's a few systems we have to watch here as we go into middle to latter part of November, especially around the Philippines here. Let's take a look. So yeah, this is Friday, 4 a.m. There's nothing really of interest at the moment, but watch this. As we go in time, it looks pretty clear through there's November 14th. This is what I was worried about. Here we go. This is what we're going to look at for our first potential problem here. So if you're in the Philippines, Taiwan, South China, Vietnam, definitely want to keep an eye on this feature because this is quite an area. And models have been spinning this up in different ways. Now, look what's initially happening here. You have a strung out area of convection. And the first area of convection, this is Wednesday, November 16th. Looks like it's going to start affecting parts of the northern Philippines over towards Manila here. So let's put this into motion and see how this plays out. Let me just zoom out just a hair here, and I'll show you this. So this first system looks like it could develop into some sort of tropical storm here. This is right around Thursday, November 17th. This has been the trend, and it kind of fizzles out. But look at this second system forming like an eye here. This here is the central Philippines. Here is our potential typhoon. This is by Thursday, next Thursday, November 17th. If you're in the central Philippines here, even the northern Philippines, please keep an eye on this system. This looks like it could be a problem. Now, whether it becomes a super typhoon, I don't think so, but it's something we have to keep an eye on, because look at how it really consolidates its energy, and it starts skipping up towards the northern Philippines by this time. You can see it kind of becomes a little bit washed out, but still, it's got a punch here. This is Saturday, November 19th, and there you can see it's finally making landfall again there in the northern Philippines. Before kind of getting some wind shear up here, you can see this strung out area of moisture is associated with a frontal boundary that will be working through the area here. So definitely want to keep an eye on this and how this interacts. Now look, I know this is troubling to many people in the Philippines, but look at how the intertropical convergence zone is really heating up here. This is something we really need to keep an eye on. So let's see if this trough of low pressure can actually clean some of these out. And it kind of does go to work here. You can see how these westerlies associated with this trough, this frontal boundary here, actually making it as far north as the northern Philippines. Here, this typhoon, it redirects it to the northeast. That's great news. And this time of year, you can get these big troughs coming down like this and moving these typhoons off really quickly to the northeast before they hit any land. And that's what seems to be happening here. This is great news for the Philippines. I still want you to stay tuned here, because look at this. This is Saturday, November 26th. We have another potential, maybe typhoon here, approaching the northern Philippines. Take a look at temperatures here. Your TGIF. Yeah, you got one more warm day. Enjoy it. But it will be rather wet. Look at that. 70 along the coast. Mid to upper 60s inland here across New York and Pennsylvania. But as we head into Saturday, a harsh touch of reality as that cold front plows in. What's left of Nicole pulls to the northeast. Temperatures early highs in your 50s here into upstate New York and to central Pennsylvania will be falling throughout the day. Look at that. 40s into Ohio. And as we get into Sunday here, yeah, it's looking a bit more wintry. Even 40s all the way to the coast here. 30s inland here across interior sections. Gonna get the lake effect setting up here. And look at this. Reinforcing here Monday. It pretty much every place is in the 40s, even some 30s up here into northern New England. And as we get into Tuesday here, a little bit of a warming trend. We're actually getting into the lower 50s here along the coast. This is actually what you should be seeing more in line for this time of year. Interior sections, this might be a few degrees below average. We've been above average for so many weeks here. And as we get into Wednesday of next week, look at this. Yeah, we're not moving the needle much here. There's not too much to talk about here. We're sticking into the 40s. Extended outlook from my hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton's Upper Susquehanna River Valley from Veterans Day, Friday all the way to Tuesday. Well, we have the remnants of Nicole moving through, gusty winds, heavy rain, 1 to 2 inches. Will winds up to 20, 30, 40 miles per hour. The temperatures will be falling. Look at that. Sunday, scattered snow showers, 44. And then by Monday and Tuesday, it will be wintry. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of Weather Eastern and Hurricane Eastern and Northeastern as well. Guess what? Winter weather outlook. It's in the description in the link down below. Also the link in this video. You're probably seeing it on the screen now. Click it. Go to my winter weather outlook. Watch it. You'll love it. And Facebook at MeteoMark. Also Weather Northeastern. Also Hurricane Northeastern. At Twitter at Weather Eastern. MeteoMark.com, WeatherNortheastern.com.